fallen. And what an appropriate piece. You know, I was here a couple of years ago, had an event on that aircraft carrier. It's quite a huge aircraft carrier, by the way. It's big from here, but when you're walking on it, it is a huge, huge ship. But this tribute monument was not here at that time. And I know Medal of Honor recipient Woody Williams has been putting these together around the country with the help of those in the areas. And so it's really kind of a blessing to see this here and to be able to stop here and have this end of day ceremony, you know, at this moment. And, you know, I'll definitely send this to him. I know it will bless him to see that we have done this. One thing I'd like to do before we kind of get started, we have kind of form a little thing, and that is I just want to say a pledge of allegiance to the flag. And since we don't have an American flag, I'm going to use this one right here, you know, as our guide.
There's one right over there, George.
Oh, we have one way over there? Okay. We can look at that. Oh, there we go. Okay, look at that. So if everyone would just join with me. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen. Thank you. The second thing I want to do, and I don't know who's responsible for the upkeep and maintenance of the property here, but the first thing that I notice on any flying emblem that we have, that anyone is displaying, is how worn it may be. And so, in case if you haven't noticed that Honor and Remember flag up there, I think it's a little bit too worn to stay. So we're going to ask the Patriot Guard to replace that flag before we start with a new flag with more vivid colors and less tattered. So, gentlemen, if you wouldn't mind replacing that for us before we start.
And before we start, I know most of y'all know a little bit about the national anthem, so if I started, could you help me out? Is it okay? Some words that I don't get, y'all might get. Okay? Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Thank you, gentlemen. So 10 years ago, on Memorial Day of 2008, the Honor and Remember organization was founded. And basically with the establishment of the Honor and Remember flag to become our nation's national symbol of remembrance. Because we thought it was important that America have a way to send a message to the men and women who have given their loved ones for our country, to those moms and dads and spouses and family members, to be thanked, to be appreciated, because the men and women who have given their lives are no longer with us, but the families are still with us, and those families will grieve for the rest of their lives. So what is one of the most important things that we can do is say thank you, is to remember them in the best and biggest and most, we educated the nation as to what it meant and the importance of it and why it should exist, that eventually, once it was flying, that every Gold Star family in America, regardless of generation, regardless of branch of service, regardless of cause of death, would have a message sent to them, something that they could connect with, to look up as it's flying here and say, wow, that's for me. That flag flies in recognition of my loss and in perpetuity as a celebration of the life that we raised and that we gave. And so remembrance is a really big deal, right? This is why Woody is putting at least one of these in every single state, and in many states, multiple monuments, because we want to send that message to all that it is important to remember. So here we are as an organization. We thought one of the best ways of remembering is not to forget a name, right? Because each one of these men and women, each one of our loved ones, were not statistics. They all have names, and they all have moms and dads, and many spouses, and sometimes children, and they deserve to be remembered individually. Each one of our families doesn't need a reminder, right, that they've lost their loved one. Right? There are many, many ways that we all remember. But we keep those loved ones in our hearts, whether it be wearing a photograph or wearing a dog tag or getting a tattoo or starting a scholarship fund. There are so many ways that families remember, but they don't need to be reminded. Who needs to be reminded is the rest of our nation. And we thought, how do we send a message to the rest of our country, to the 90+% who may not understand, who have no connection to the military, who really don't get what sacrifice means. They just enjoy the freedoms that we all do. And that's a wonderful thing. I mean, we have these controversies about burning the flag or people just doing whatever evil things they want to, and we all say, well, that's wrong, but they have the freedom to do whatever they want, right? We all have that freedom, but it comes because a small percentage of our nation has decided to enlist and selflessly serve, and very often get that blank check cashed, right? That's up to their very own life. And remembering their name, there's nothing more important than remembering their name. And when we can, as a nation, beyond the family unit, remember their name, then we've done something special. So we thought that as an organization that's founded on public remembrance, that if we could gather the name of every fallen service member who has died in our contemporary times and call them out loud, that maybe that message would resonate, and the rest of our country might go, wow, is this really happening? You know, one day after the next, 1 mile after the next, is somebody really calling out every name of every fallen service member? Yeah, we're doing it. And then maybe they would pick up on it and share it and spread it, and then it might one day go viral. And when I say one day, I mean we've got 5 months of running and calling out names every single day, every hour of every day. There's a chance for this to go viral. But has it? No, not at all. It's almost like nobody's listening, except the families themselves and the local communities that we go through, which is a travesty in a sense. So what we did was, we gathered the names of every service member that we could collect, starting with the bombing of the USS Cole, October 12, 2000. And working with the Department of Defense and other branches of the service and other organizations, we tried to compile what we called the largest, most comprehensive database of fallen service members ever put together in this time period. And we came up with a list of over 20,000 service members. And then we took those service members and we put them into a searchable database. And then we broadcasted it out to as many places as we possibly could, so that people could come and search their loved one's name. And if their loved one's name was not on that database, they could add them. So we kept growing and growing and growing, because it wasn't just battle casualties. It was every single service member who gave their life while serving, regardless of the circumstances, completely regardless of the circumstances, or as a result of serving, even those that would have succumbed to the hidden wounds of post-traumatic stress after service. This is why I say this is a compilation of the largest number of fallen service members I think was probably ever attempted. Comprehensive and complete. And we've been doing this for 2.5 years, so it didn't just start yesterday. So we've been compiling and sharing and adding for the last 2.5 years. And as we began to plan for this run across America, we thought, okay, we're not just going to say that we're running for all these fallen men and women. We're actually going to put them together on a tribute trail across America. And however long it takes to run and call their names out loud is how long we're going to do it. And so we looked for a commonality between these names. And the easiest commonality that we could come up with was date of death. So we decided that when we looked at it, the 20,000 names actually fell into about 6,000 unique individual dates of death. So we took those 6,000 dates of death, we called them miles or hero markers, and then we laid a trail across America for as long as it would take and at whatever distance in states that we could get through to go from California to Washington, D.C. And what we found that we needed to compile in those 6,000 miles was to go through about 19 states. So 19 states running about 50 miles a day would get us to our destination of Arlington National Cemetery. And so starting with the USS Cole as our first marker, every marker after that, and let's use 50 a day. Sometimes it's a little less, sometimes it's more. Every day we ran for 50 unique dates of death. So the first marker was the USS Cole, October 12, 2000. The second marker was October 13th of 2000. The next marker was October 25th. So we're not running, just consecutive days. We're running for every single day that a hero gave their life. So I'm painting this picture for you of how we plan this trail across America. We happen to be here at Patriots Point in South Carolina on the 104th day of running. And we have run approximately
4757.
4,757 dates of death to get to this moment here. This historic moment right here. And so every day, how many of you know that we have a live feed? We're broadcasting this to the world. A few of you know that. So on our website, runforthefallen.org, there is a link that says live feed. And there's still time to watch. That live feed is broadcasting what our day looks like. And that day looks like this. Since some of you haven't been watching, I'm going to lay out what happens in those 50 dates of death. When we have a full contingent of runners, and in the last several days we have not had a full contingent of runners. So if any of you know some runners that would like to participate, that can run about a 10-minute mile, we would love to have you out participate. But when we have a full contingent of runners, which is a minimum of 4, we're carrying 4 full-size flags. We're carrying the United States flag because we're running for our American heroes. We carry the state flag of the state that we're running in because we want to honor that state. We're carrying a flag that we established 3 years ago on the 15th anniversary of 9/11, which is a flag that honors our fallen first responders, our police, our fire, and our emergency. It's called the Honor and Sacrifice flag. And why do we carry that? Because we are being escorted by our law enforcement, both state and local law enforcement. And very often we are being escorted by fire trucks, or we are being honored as we're going through a town by the fire community. And we want them to know that we have not forgotten their selfless service, and we haven't forgotten their brothers and sisters. Even though we might not be calling their name out loud, we are still going to remember their sacrifice. And we carry the fourth flag is the Honor and Remember flag, which you just saw lifted above us. And that flag represents every fallen service member in the history of our country. It does stand as our national symbol of remembrance. And as a matter of fact, it is the official state symbol of remembrance in the state of South Carolina. So if you didn't know that, it is official by legislation. We do have a flagpole. If you want to honor our fallen military, you need to fly this flag at some point during the year. And so we carry those four flags. And along with those flags, we're carrying a placard which has the date of death that we're running for and the heroes' names that died on that date of death. And sometimes it's one, because we can't have a marker unless we have a date of death, right? Because that marker means we're running for an individual. And sometimes one day we had as many as 57 on one day. Many times we have 10 or 20. And with that placard and all those names, we are carrying a set of flags. Pull those out of his pocket. We're carrying a set of flags just like that. One for every name that is on that placard. And as we stop, we come to attention, and we call out loud, are there any Gold Star families present? Because sometimes families have traveled thousands of miles to be at that marker, at that moment. Remember, I said we're running for consecutive dates of death. So we didn't place heroes next to where their hometowns might be, or next to where their families live. We have no way of knowing that. So we plant them based on their consecutive dates of death. And so as we come up to that marker, we ask if there are families. We then begin to read that marker. This hero marker is dedicated to those military service members who lost their lives on this particular day. And then we proceed to read the marker, the day we're reading. So today was 104, and then the marker, the date, the mile marker of that date of death. And what I said, 4,757 would have been our last marker. And then we read the names of those that died on that day. And as we're reading those names, we take a set of flags for each name and we plant it in the ground. Because we want to honor each one of those names individually. And then once we have done that with every name, we come back to attention. And we either salute or hand over our heart, depending on whether we're military or civilian, to honor those that we just ran for. And then we pick up the next placard with the next set of names and the next date of death, and the next sets of flags that correspond to those number of names, and off we go to the next marker. And we do this every single mile, about 6 markers an hour for 8 to 10 hours every single day, until every one of those designated heroes for that day are remembered. Why do we do it? Because men and women cannot be forgotten. They just cannot be forgotten. It's said that a person can die two deaths. The physical death, and then the last time that someone calls their name out loud. The last person who remembers. And we can't let that happen as a nation. These men and women, every one of these men, collectively, are our national treasure. May not have been designated that way, but they are our national treasure. And we need to preserve them, to live in the society that we have, to maintain the freedoms that we enjoy. Men and women will continue to die for their country. And families will continue to raise them up and give them to the rest of us so that others don't have to give their loved ones. And that percentage is so small that the reverence and respect that they all deserve needs to be preserved. One of the things that we do in the evening, and I'm so grateful that we have you here with us, because we like to reread. We like to reread the names of those that we ran for that day. Because if you were with us on the side of the road, or whether you watched us on the live feed, you know that the road is a very noisy place. And we are, although being escorted by the police, very often when we stop, they're letting the traffic go around us. And it's very, very noisy. And so we honor the best we can as we stop and call out loud as often as we can, call out loud. But very often those names are drowned out. So we want to make sure that we reread those names in a quiet place. And with those who understand the meaning of reading those names. But second, because those families aren't here with us. Of all the names that we're going to read tonight, I believe it's 88 names that we ran for today. And those families that couldn't be with us, and I know some of those families are with us. But you have an opportunity to stand in place of those families who could not be with us. And although we are recording this and keeping this for them to go back and listen to, as we read those names, I want everyone to listen to them as if they are your families. Because they're going to be unfamiliar to you. But the ones that are familiar to you, you know how that feels. You know the anticipation of knowing that your loved one's going to be called out, and when it's going to happen, and what that feels like. And I want you to feel that for the names that you're not familiar with. So you have an opportunity to embrace them, in this important moment, in this respectful place. And so I'm going to ask, let me show that flag first. Thanks, Dave. I mentioned to you that we ask if there's any Gold Star families present. I want to show you this because I think it might be meaningful. This is an honor and remember flag that we've been carrying since our first day, April the 7th, in Fort Irwin, California. This is now our 17th state of travel. And this flag has the signatures of every family that we have met along our journey that has taken the time to travel, whatever distance that may be. And today, some from Florida, from Texas, from Michigan, to come and be on the side of the road, waiting for us to ask if there are any Gold Star family members present and hear us call out their loved one's name for 30 seconds. Thousands of miles, tens of hours for 30 seconds. Do you think that they think it's important that their loved one be remembered? I can't tell you how many signatures are on there. But I can tell you that I pretty much hugged every single one of those families and appreciated their sacrifice and will continue all the way to Arlington for the next 17 days. So we're going to reread those names now. 88 names. It'll take a few minutes. I would ask, please, that you silence your cell phones because there's some crazy ringtones out there that I know no one wants to be embarrassed when it goes off. And Kristen and Dan and Chris are going to read those names. Kristen will tell you what those dates. Well, how many was it? 52. Oh, 57. 57 unique dates of death for those 88 heroes. And she will tell you what dates that we ran for.
The dates that we ran for today were June 19th through September 18th of 2015. Private First Class Louis F. Alvarez, United States Army. Colonel David Broughton Snodgrass, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Daryl Ray Adams, United States Army. Sergeant Ronald Joseph Dupuis III, United States Army. Sergeant Matthew Dwayne Reynolds, United States Army. Colonel Sophia Ann Tillman Ortiz, United States Army. Sergeant Colby M. Bazo, United States Army. Sergeant Johnny D. McCulley, United States Army. Warrant Officer 2, Jennifer Christine Hunter, United States Army. Major Timothy John Ruby, United States Army. Senior Chief Petty Officer Jason P. May, United States Navy. Sergeant Christopher Sean Connors, United States Army. First Class Mikhail John Alvarez Gaviola, United States Army. Sergeant Aaron J. Merrill, United States Marine Corps Reserves. Staff Sergeant Michael Joseph Quintero, United States Army. Warrant Officer 1, Sean Michael Young, United States Army. Frederick Jenkins III, United States Army. Private First Class Holden Jeffrey Philbrook, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Antonio Sean Aku, United States Army. Specialist Bernard Parnell Washington, United States Army. Lieutenant Colonel Dietrich Mendel Jordan, United States Army. Sergeant First Class Donald Eugene Carl, United States Army. Sergeant Stanley Bernard Daniels, United States Army. Sergeant First Class Anthony James Pantano, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Nicholas A. Valvo, United States Army. Private First Class Tazan Deonta Gray, United States Army. Master Sergeant Stephen Price Gibbons, United States Army. Specialist Norman Eugene Thiel, United States Army. Sergeant First Class Raymond Michael Bushis, United States Army. Staff Sergeant David Allen Wyatt, United States Air Force.
Lance Corporal Squire Skip Wells, United States Marine Corps Reserve. Gunny Sergeant Thomas J. Sullivan, United States Marine Corps. Petty Officer 2, Randall Scott Smith, United States Navy. Sergeant Alonzo McCollin, United States Army. Specialist Brian Michael Lucky, United States Army. Sergeant Richard Austin Johnson, United States Army Reserve. Chief Warrant Officer 3, Tanya Nicole Dunbar, United States Army. Sergeant James Donald Little III, United States Army. Specialist Anthony Lee Coleman II, United States Army. Captain Lamar Clay Norris,
United States Army. Sergeant First Class Robert Louis Tipton, United States Army. Sergeant First Class Jarrett Christopher Souza, United States Army. Chief Warrant Officer 2 Scott Michael Mobus, United States Army. Specialist Gustavo Moreno Jr., United States Army. Staff Sergeant Matthew Ryan Good, United States Army. Specialist Cody J. Sisk, United States Army. Sergeant Keisha Lachelle Harris Foster, United States Army. Specialist Caleb Michael Collins, United States Army. Specialist Kevin Christopher Kennerson, United States Army. Specialist Kimberly Ann Weber, United States Army. Corporal Brian Keith Duke, United States Army. Sergeant Matthew Christopher Horn, United States Marine Corps Reserve. Tech Sergeant Wayne T. Swain, United States Air Force. Specialist John William Alton, United States Army. Sergeant Ryan Anthony Baker, United States Marine Corps. Corporal Matthew L. Haynes, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Michael Donovan Reap, United States Air Force. Master Sergeant Peter A. McKenna Jr., United States Army. Second Lieutenant John Lucky Gomes, United States Army. Specialist Zachary Laverne Brooks, United States Army. Sergeant Eric L. Head, United States Army. Second Lieutenant Eduardo Luis Ortiz Cortez, United States Army. Petty Officer Robert G. Pecker Sr., United States Navy. Specialist Carlo Casvedes Westbrook, United States Army. Private First Class Michael Edward Charles, United States Army.
Specialist Devin Lee Olmos, United States Army. Captain Heather Waterman Honeycutt, United States Army. Senior Airman Andres Reno, United States Air Force. Staff Sergeant Forrest B. Sibley, United States Air Force. Captain Matthew D. Rowland, United States Air Force. Petty Officer Clarence James Roche, United States Navy. Sergeant Mark Kelly Green, United States Army. Sergeant First Class Tyler Milliam Westbrook, United States Army. Specialist James Dominic Challender, United States Army. Corporal Keith A. Miller, United States Marine Corps Reserve. Sergeant First Class Cheryl Maxine Thomas Goodman, United States Army. Private Travis Lee Darnell, United States Army. Major John Henry Mark Jr., United States Army. Staff Sergeant Michael J. Woosley, United States Army. Specialist Darius Devontae Wilkinson, United States Army. Captain James Mayugjen An, United States Army. Lieutenant Colonel Jeffrey Dale Cole, United States Army. Petty Officer 3 Warren G. Stone, Jr., United States Navy. Private First Class Robert Bruce Giffen III, United States Army. Sergeant Daniel Gerard Brooks, United States Army. Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Joseph O'Rourke, United States Army. Specialist Hayden James Bean, United States Army. Petty Officer Michael James Connell, United States Navy.
88 names, over 57 unique individual dates of death. So we have read the names of those that we ran for today. Before I move to another section of what we're going to do tonight, I'd like for those who are with us, whose names might not have been called out, to be able to honor someone along with these names that may be in your heart. Someone that you know, someone that may be a family member, someone from any generation. Because this flag and what we're doing, when we were running for our fallen military, we're not just, although we're calling out the names of those during the War on Terror. We are literally running for them all. And so I'm just going to take a moment. If you would like to call out somebody's name out loud, meaningful to you, it could be a neighbor, it could be a comrade, anyone. I ask that you not be shy and you include them in this time of reverence at this moment. So I'm just going to go look this way. Just raise your hand and if you'd like to call someone's name. I know you do. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Specialist Robert Horn, United States Army, September 17th, 2001.
Anyone else? Yes, Sergeant. Go ahead.
3 generations. I'm Free Martoni, United States Marines, Vietnam. My father, Augustine Martoni Sr., U.S. Air Force Army in World War II. And our son, Justin Robert Martoni, Gunny Sergeant, 2006 in Iraq. USC Marine, United States Marine.
Anyone else?
My brother, Robert Edward Coleman, Jr., United States Navy.
My father, Horace Raymond Smith Sr., United States Air Force, Dover, Delaware. He was a fireman.
Thank you. Anyone else? Don't be shy. Yes, ma'am.
My son, Corporal Andrew Amesbury, died December 11th, 2015. He won't be able to be here tomorrow night. He'll be there tomorrow.
Where's Mark?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? No? If we could just bow our heads for a moment of silence as we think about the names that we just read, that we ran for today, the names just spoken, those that are unspoken, and those that we are yet to run tomorrow and the rest of our journey to Arlington. Amen. So I talked about the fact that we're running for our fallen, but we're also running for our families, because those families are the ones who are here with us and the ones that are grieving. And we want them to know and give them a hug and embrace them and say, hey, we are not going to forget. And so our definition, as I mentioned, was those who died while serving, regardless of circumstance. And that is a very broad definition. Or as a result of serving. And so I would like to identify, I know there are many families here, but for the rest of us, if you fall into that definition, whether you think you're a Gold Star family or not, then you are to us. If you would raise your hand so that we could acknowledge you and honor you, please raise your hand so we know who you are. Thank you for your sacrifice. One last thing before we conclude is something that we're able to do occasionally, not every night. But as an organization, you can tell that we're not just about globally remembering, but it is very important to us to remember individually by name. It's very, very important to us. And so, as often as we can, and this only comes by request, families have to make this request, and then eventually, unfortunately, we're able to catch up. But we have a special presentation have a special honor and remember flag that we have prepared. It's a personalized flag, very similar, obviously, in look to that flag there, but this is made special by request, and it is our goal as an organization to be sure that every family who has lost a loved one in the history of our country, not just in contemporary times, receive a flag such as this. So if you have not requested one, I ask that you please do. And if you have requested one, then I ask that you please be patient, because it very often is a very long wait. We have over 1,000 families waiting to receive a flag. And anyway, we're privileged to be able to present one here tonight, really in front of this monument and in front of all of you. So I'm going to explain. I'm going to ask the Pfeiffer family to come forward. If you guys would just stand right here to my right. So what I'm holding is a honor and remember flag folded in a triangle. And it's folded in a triangle because it mirrors the American flag that was folded and handed to them at the memorial of their loved one. And why was it folded into a triangle? Because the protocol of folding the American flag is to fold it into a triangle. It doesn't mean anything specifically in terms of death. It's the protocol of folding the American flag. However, once this flag is folded in a triangle and handed to a family, I will tell you that from that day forward, and I know this from experience, when a family sees a folded American flag, they immediately think of death, because that is the association. So it's a horrible thing that we fold it into a triangle normally, because it's really hard. I know it is on me. If I walk into somebody's office and I see a folded flag, I think, who did you lose? It's immediately my thought. So it's really tough. So this flag is folded this way one time in respect to the way this flag was folded. But once it's open, it's meant to be a celebration of life, never to be folded like this again, as a reminder of a positive celebration and the memories, and not a reminder of his loss. And so I'm going to ask them to open this up, and I'm going to read the certificate. If you'll just hold this red part, let the rest of it fall. Just shake it. You can open it, then show it to them first. This honor and remember flag is presented with eternal gratitude and respect in memory of Sergeant Eric A. Pfeiffer. With this flag, we honor this patriot's unwavering dedication and remember his selfless sacrifice. By displaying this flag collectively as a nation, we humbly recognize the enormity of your loss and respectfully say thank you.
Thank you.
You guys would fold it so you can still read the name, fold it lengthwise, so you can still read the name. Fold it the other way, so you're gonna have to fold it turned on. Fold it again, so you can still read the name.
There you go. You got it?
The last thing that I'd like to do is to just recognize the crew that has been traveling with me for the last 4 months, who have given up their time dedicated their bodies and their expense to come out and be a part of this journey to Arlington and to honor all of those men and women who we have been calling out. And so I have a crew of 8. I think most of them are here. If you would raise your hand. This is that crew that has volunteered. We've added Chris to our journey. Chris has jumped in to go with us all the way to Arlington for the last several weeks to help out with the running part, since we are very, very short of runners. And I don't know if there's anybody else here who has volunteered in any capacity to help us who may be here. We thank the PGR. They've been out for 2 days.
Even in the rain.
Even in the rain today, marking our distances. We're so grateful that everybody out there for us. It means the world, really. Other than that, thank you so much for being here. It means so much for us to do this, but to know that there are people that care that we're doing it, and that's important to them. So you're all free to go.
Thanks, everybody.
You know what I'd like to do is, if you guys all don't mind, since we're all just looking at it, come and stand in front of this memorial. I want to take one big, huge picture and send it to Woody. Just come on.